Welcome to FitHer. I am your host, Kristen Hislop, and this is where strong women share their stories, expert insights, and bold truths about health, fitness, and living fully, because your journey matters. Now, let's get to it today, because today we have two guests from Resolute Physical Therapy, Caitlin Sullivan and Katie Trainer, Mars. I'll add that in. And they are here to talk about their experiences as athletes getting into physical therapy. But then we're going to talk specifically about some topics that really affect most women. And I think we have a lot of learning to do still. So let's get started with a little bit of background about each of you, your athletic journey, and why physical therapy. So Jacqueline, we'll start with you.
So I was a figure skater since I was little. I ran track and played field hockey too, but primarily I had a lot of injuries from figure skating. Mm-hmm. So I became a physical therapist after PT worked for me. But then as I became a PT and had my first child, I really went into women's health. I had an okay birth experience, but I wanted something better for myself and other women. So I went in the realm of women's health to kind of help with that demographic.
Yeah.
Very similar experience to Jacqueline. I was a 3-sport athlete, soccer, basketball, lacrosse, had my fair share of injuries. I really liked the atmosphere of the clinic that I was in doing PT at, and I knew I didn't want to sit at a desk. I like to kind of figure out how things work, and that's really what being a PT is all about.
Yes, exactly. I think that it's like going into physical therapy, both of you were at practices before you created Resolute Physical Therapy. Tell me a little bit, this wasn't one of our pre-planned questions, but I think it's important that tell me a little bit about why you wanted to start your practice and what the thinking was and the need that you saw for both yourselves and clients, patients.
Out of school, I think both of us, we went to clinics that we were kind of required to see 2-3 patients at a time, and it was just really hard to do a good job. I went into the profession to help people, and I felt like I was so scatterbrained and I couldn't truly help them and give them the attention that they needed. So then I switched to a clinic that was all one-on-one, and my boss mentor was incredible. He had a very big business mindset and kind of helped develop my thought process as a PT and what really is out there and what's possible. And then Jacqueline joined me at that clinic. So if you kind of want to take over.
Yeah, so Katie's from around here and I'm not. So I was working at a different job and I met her at a CrossFit gym and we became friends. And I kept saying how I hated my job. And she kind of was like, oh, well, you know, my boss is hiring, and we started working together. And the business mindset was probably the greatest thing that both of us learned, how much you can handle and what you can do for yourselves. And you can then, in turn, determine the care you give to other people. Mm-hmm. So then I think the next part was knowing that we wanted to work together. And I think after years of working together in friendships, and we realized that we are really compatible, super type A, super type B. So we kind of went together. But otherwise, like, it was just knowing that you share the same passions, morals, values, and goals for healthcare. And I think then we just kind of went off on it. And then we have a third business partner that we worked with him as well. So I think when you work with people, you know that you can do it. And so, yeah, we all kind of joined forces and opened Resolute Physical Therapy.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't know, is that there are different practices and there are different practice styles. And so sometimes I'll hear people say, well, I went to PT and it didn't work. How frustrating is that? And what do you say when you hear that?
I think kind of exactly what you said, except the other token of it didn't work and there's so many different practice styles. We say we're different here. Mm-hmm. Because we do own it, we have the ability to control how we treat, the amount we treat, one-on-one sessions, when it's not fault to the therapist themselves at the other places. Right. That's healthcare, and unfortunately reimbursement rates are really low. So you have to see 2 to 3 patients an hour to be able to make money. And when we're working for ourselves, we can control that more, and being a smaller business. So yeah, we tell them that we are different. We do see people one-on-one, and you just have to tell them that and really explain that just like any profession, there's great physical therapists and there's not as good physical therapists. There's great teachers and some aren't as great. There's great accountants, some aren't as great. So you kind of have to shop around and put your health first, I would say.
I also think it's a little bit too about, and we've talked about this with other guests, of it's people's communication styles too, right? You could be saying something to someone and they're just not hearing it, and somebody else says it and they're like, oh, and vice versa, right? Somebody goes to someone and they say, here's what your issue is and here's what we can do, and they come to you and it makes perfect sense.
So ask them like, well, what did that therapist do? And they'll kind of tell me what they did with them. And I said, okay, I'm not going to do any of those things. Right. If that didn't work for you the first time, let's try to figure out a different approach to it to find out what actually can help you.
Exactly. Because it could be just a different way of getting at the same problem, right?
And meeting them where they are. I think a lot of times in healthcare specifically, no one sits the person down. Like, I'll normally start with, okay, so what are your goals for today? And if I know that their goal is to get back to CrossFit or to go for a walk with their dog or be able to pick their grandchild off the floor, then they're seeing a purpose and a function of what we're doing to then build to what they're doing. So like a random exercise, sometimes that doesn't connect with people. Right. So being able to say, we're doing this for X, Y, and Z, and we're meeting your goals. And I think that really helps.
I would assume that gets more buy-in too.
It does,
people, right?
and you get a purpose, and then you are doing your exercises because you're working towards a goal, not just like just some random, yes, I won't have back pain, but if you see what it's building towards, it really does help. I think people, accountability as well.
Yeah. You guys, you have kind of dovetailed each other and doing things together. And one of the things you kind of did together was get pregnant too. Not really together, but in the same time frame. So you said your first pregnancy was kind of I want to learn more, I want to know more. What was it that you felt was missing? What did you want to know more about?
My first pregnancy was great. I was very active. I know how to move my body. It's what I specialize in. So that I felt great with. Again, type B person, kind of just was like, oh, I'm just going to wing it when I go and have birth, and don't do that for anyone. Have a plan. But I didn't realize how much, yes, I know how the body moves, but I didn't delve like a lot into the birth process. And you can move yourself into different positions. You can do specific things that are going to help that baby come down and deliver better and easier and reduce risk for tearing and reduce the length of the labor, to reduce the risk for C-section. And I had no idea about any of that. And my first birth did not really go the way I wanted it to. And so it was learning the things to make that easier and better. So I was more prepared. And my second birth was like, and again, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You plan A, B, C, Z happens, but it was a dream, and I really prepared myself. And so that's really why I did it.
Okay, so Dr. Mars, you're type A.
Type A.
Did you have the full-on plan of exactly how the first pregnancy was going to go?
No.
Good.
Again, I worked out my entire pregnancy for the first.
Yeah.
The birth, I knew that there were some options, and there were some things that my provider wasn't going to tell me that I could still try. But in the moment of giving birth, I listened to the provider and the nurses and all the staff that was there, even knowing that other PTs have taught me different things. So I didn't feel empowered or confident or educated enough in that realm to really do the things that I knew I should do. And then I had a really tough time postpartum because you're told not to do anything for 0 to 6 weeks.
Right.
So I knew, like, that's not right. There's things I know I can do. My provider says, no, there's nothing. And then no PT would see me for 6 weeks. They wouldn't even book an appointment in the first 6 weeks.
Because that was the traditional thinking, right?
Like, right.
No, you're not supposed to. Just
but then
rest.
at 6 weeks, you can do CrossFit. You can go for a run. You can do all these things 0 to 60. So that's another piece that, like, we really work on with women. We have a 0 to 6 week app that is just breathing, reconnecting, things to help you like feel better in your back and all of that, because that's an unknown time and it's kind of scary. And being athletes, we know our bodies, but postpartum, it's like, who is this?
What is this body?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So was it was really your experiences that then said, let's start focusing in pregnancy and postpartum work with your patients. So tell me about, how did you go about all your learning for that? Because I would imagine you get a little bit of it in your doctorate program, but probably about as much nutrition as physicians get, right?
Maybe about a half hour of a lecture was pelvic floor.
It was limited.
We hosted a course at our clinic. It was a Herman and Wallace pelvic floor level 1 course. So they talk about what is the pelvic floor, what are common conditions that we might see. So after that course, we started doing more pelvic health. And with pelvic health, there is an exam process that we can use. So most physical therapy is external assessments. This is an internal assessment. So we can look at what actually is happening at the pelvic floor, strength, weakness, tension, tenderness. We can address all of those things. And then after having that base knowledge of pelvic floor, we both took advanced courses in pregnancy and postpartum specific coursework.
Yeah. One of the things we learned, we had a vendor come to the Run for Women Expo a couple years ago, and she had tights and shorts for basically incontinence, because she told us 50% of women pee when they run. And I was blown away, because I was like, wow, I had no idea. I mean, I knew I had friends who had that, and most of it was after having a baby. But I had no idea that number was as high as it is. Well, now come to find out, there's high schoolers.
Yeah.
And I talk to the kids and they're like, tell me. And they're like, me, so it's not just an issue around pregnancy. I would just assume, not knowing this, I'm just off the top of my head, only knowing because of hormonal changes, that there's probably a higher recurrence of issues in menopause. Yeah. So that's super interesting. So you specifically will work with women around their pregnancy, but that's not all you do with the pelvic health, right? You're looking at women of all ages.
Yeah, we do it from adolescence to all the way through menopause and beyond. You touched on during pregnancy, there's a ton of change in hormones. There's fluctuations. Perimenopause into menopause, there's a ton of hormonal fluctuations. So the same thing can happen. Changes to the pelvic floor, causing leaking, pain with intercourse, prolapse, which is you can have organ or just kind of soft tissue in the pelvic region kind of fall down. And that can be after you have a baby, that can be in perimenopause to menopause. So
and even puberty, right?
And even puberty.
So the same thing. So it's kind of like we really need to be letting young girls know, well, sadly, some of it's normal, right? But you may think it's horrible and awful, but no, that's normal. And here's what you can do.
I think knowing what you can do about it is huge, and take the embarrassment factor out of it. A lot of women are like nervous and scared and embarrassed, and they don't know who to tell. They'll sometimes tell their primary, sometimes tell their gynecologist, but I have women coming to see me and they're like, I haven't told anyone this for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think the teenagers, like, this is a whole scary thing for them. So who are they going to tell about this? Maybe their mom? Probably not their doctor.
Yeah. Or hopefully a coach, right? So then if we can say, hey, okay, now let's make this a normal thing at least with the athletes, because they're the ones who maybe are experiencing when they're on the field or running or doing things. None of that was ever talked about when I was that age, and even through the whole pregnancy stuff, it was not.
Right.
No one ever counseled on anything around pelvic floor health.
And we like to use the word common, not normal, because yes, you want to normalize it so people don't feel like something that's happening to them isn't right, or they're doing something wrong. But when it becomes that it's normal, then it's, oh, you had a baby, it's normal to pee your pants. It kind of is what it is. What we say is, just like shoulder pain isn't normal. You shouldn't just have shoulder pain out of the blue, or even if you fell and got hurt, it should get better. You shouldn't have shoulder pain. You shouldn't have chronic low back pain. You shouldn't have stomach pain, whatever the case may be. You also shouldn't have leakage. You shouldn't have pain with intercourse. It's common, not a normal thing to have. So in common isn't just like here and there. There's a high prevalence of it. So if we tell people that it's common, they understand that it's just not normal and we don't fix it.
Right.
Like that, if you say like,
well, it's like what everyone goes through with menopause, right? It's like, oh, well, hot flashes. Well, that's an expectation. Well, no,
Exactly.
Like you can do things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
we
that's
use that
a
a lot.
really good distinction.
yeah, to say it's common for this to happen, but it's not normal. It shouldn't stay. We need to fix
Right.
these things.
Let's
and there's
work on it.
tactics to, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So what, like right now, like in your business, what percentage are you seeing? And is this a real growth area for you?
This is definitely a real growth area. There are not a lot of places providing pelvic health services. And previously it took like 6 weeks to 2 months to get in to see a provider, a pelvic PT. Now there are a couple more places, but we've definitely grown our expertise in this area. We're getting word of mouth referrals. We're getting a ton of providers sending people here because they keep getting word that we're doing this. I think Jacqueline and my caseload is probably 70 to 80% pelvic health. We still have your typical orthopedic clients as well, like
Right.
CrossFitters, runners,
Yeah.
things like that. And
All the kids I send to you.
all the yeah. And then another big majority is our osteoporosis clientele. So a lot of women are coming to us for help treating their osteoporosis.
Yeah. So I think let's talk about that, right? Because one of the things is coaching high school athletes now, I tell the kids all the time, this is the best time of your life. Like you can make such changes now. And they look at me like I'm insane, but I really do think it's the best time of their life, right? This is when they can have fun. They don't have a ton of responsibility and you can build your bone because that goes away. And so I think, we talk a lot in the running world now. There's so much more talk around the importance of nutrition and all of those things. But I think for the women that you see that are around my age, there are a lot of women that abused their bodies. And so I think one of the things we want to do through this podcast is educate women on what they can do now, but educate young women on what they can do now too. So let's talk about the osteoporosis, because I will say from my side, I used to sign up for every test that I could when I was in grad school. And because I was at University of Colorado at Boulder, and they had a sports science program. So I got VO2 tests and bone density and just everything, every new test that came out. I was like, I'll sign up for that. So I know my bone density was fantastic when I was in my 20s. I have osteopenia now. So you would think traditional thinking, another thing we want to do is bust as many myths as we can. I've been running like since I was 16. Shouldn't I have incredible bone density now?
Can't wait to answer that question.
Please do.
So a couple of things. As we age and we go through perimenopause and menopause, we talked about the change of hormones. Estrogen is what works with our bones. So basically not to get into a ton of terminology, but you have osteoblasts, which build bone, osteoclasts that break down bone. Estrogen controls those. So as we deplete our estrogen, that's no longer happening. So our bone is no longer building, it's breaking down more. So there's only so much that you can control in that time frame. So you may have had great bone density when you were younger, but you had the estrogen. And now we're in this time of our life where it changes. People always say, well, I heard impact is really good, so I'm a runner. Shouldn't that help? Running is in a sagittal plane, which means this way. So it's called Wolff's Law. If you're interested in it, anyone who doesn't know can look it up. But basically, your bone is going to adapt to the forces you put through it. So if you're running in one plane, you're not getting lateral movement or different movements. So your bone is not going to adapt all the way around, basically, is the easiest way to say it. So people who are playing sports that they're doing a lot of like lateral motion and jumping and lunging and turning and cutting are going to have more forces put that through that bone kind of evenly, I guess would be the best thing. So you may have been a runner, you may have had great bone density at one point, but you weren't really loading your bones in those different ways, possibly. And two, the estrogen change. And I don't know if you've seen the study of for 20, 25 years, you no longer did hormone replacement therapy, women to help with bone density. So taking the estrogen and progesterone, because it was going to give you breast cancer. Right. So a huge group of women, a generation of women could not be treated with those things. And now they decided, never mind.
Never mind. We really read the data wrong.
That was false.
I mean, really, it was basically reading the data incorrectly.
Right.
And and then it was also, I mean, I listened to a lot of stuff on this, right? And it was the age group of the women too. So, but yes, it's so interesting. And what I think is really frustrating, again, I could say is my age bracket. I said, I want a bone density test. So they gave it to me last year, osteopenia. They didn't say to do anything, not make any changes. I'm like, are you out of your minds? Like, we need to make changes. So I actually went on hormone therapy because I was also having trouble with tendons and ligaments. And I was like, and then I learned, like, you have every cell in your body practically is an estrogen receptor. So you take that away, and of course, everything's going to go haywire. But now I have to get another bone density test because I want to start seeing if actually having some hormones back again is going to help at all. But I remember going to Dr. Mars a couple of years ago for a completely different issue. And she said that about bone density. And we talked about that and the importance of moving in different directions. And so that's something that we do a lot with the kids now too, because I tell them this is when you're building your bone, but you run all the time and it isn't just one plane. So we're going to do lateral work and we're going to jump and we're going to be on one leg at a time. And we're going to do, try to do some of those things. Weight vests you see everywhere. But you guys are using weight vests, so tell us about that.
So there's a couple different like major study theories about building bone and what's the best way to do it. So one of the schools of thought is low level loading for longer periods of time. So they found that wearing the weight vest for 150 minutes at least a week is going to help build their bone. So we use the weight vest. We have people wear it in our class. We do it for balance and stability. One, it makes your balance, challenges your balance a little bit more. So if you start tipping, you're going to tip more. Yeah. And two, we're trying to reduce the risk of falls during that time period as well. And then a lot of the women wear it at home when they're walking also. We found that a lot of the women that come to our class, like their main form of exercise was walking. Mm-hmm. So the easiest change to make is throw on a weighted vest and keep doing what you're doing. Then when you're ready for a behavioral change, then we can make the change for weightlifting or other things like that. So yeah, we're on board with the weight vest. I think just not going 0 to 60 with it.
Yes.
If you're walking 3 miles, don't put it on for 3 miles. Maybe wear it for 1. Put it back at home, and then keep going on your walk and kind of progressively load yourself.
Right. And I think that's something, with everything, right? Then you see people, I think, I have to get the weight vest. I'm going to go for a run with it. Like, probably not the wisest thing. Yeah. So that's awesome. Now, people who you have these classes, do they have to be a client and a patient to do the classes, or can they just call you and join a class?
We have everybody come in one-on-one through physical therapy first. Mm-hmm. That way we know everyone's safe. So we work on the 3 main lifts that we do in the class. We go through all the movements that we do in like our functional fitness part of the class. And so then we know when they join the small group class that they are safe and we're not putting anyone in the class at risk, knowing that we need to be eyes on one person. So they don't need to be a client beforehand, but that's how we then transition them into a group.
So it really becomes extremely personalized as a result, because you've gone through and basically taught a move if you need to teach it, or evaluated someone and can say, you know what, you're not quite ready for this. Here's what we need to do first. So that's super different than, most classes that people would go to. Yeah. Now, this is a side question. Do you both still do CrossFit?
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah.
see? Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got like so much that we could delve into on all of this, but I think this was a good initial cursory overview of a little bit about where you guys all specialize, but then some things that women really need to know about, should be asking about. And one of the big things we're trying to work on with this podcast is getting women to really advocate for themselves and go in and put themselves first. I mean, certainly, as soon as you have kids, now, it's like you'll do anything for them and you set aside everything for them. How are you two taking care of yourselves now that you've each got more than one?
It's an adjustment for sure. Yeah. I think my biggest thing is showing my kids, having them see that I take care of myself, right? Because you see so many parents, like I have even friends who ate well, worked out, or just found time for things that they like to do. And then when they had kids, they had one, they had two, and now they don't go to the gym anymore. We're getting prepackaged meals all the time and, things that aren't as healthy, or just not finding time to do things that they enjoy. My kids will always come first, but if they see an unhealthy version of me, that's going to be a mirror, and they're going to do the same thing. So the CrossFit gym that we go to, we're allowed to bring our kids as long as they stay in a stroller away from, the weights and stay safe. And, after the workout's over, my kids will jump in the corner or do a burpee, and they see the importance of exercise. They see the importance of eating healthy. And don't get me wrong, we'll have a pizza night. I love my donuts and cupcakes and all those things, but they're going to be a direct reflection of myself. So if I'm not happy, if I'm not healthy, if I'm not doing the things that make me thrive and fill my cup, then they won't. So I think it is a balance, and I'm tired, and you're running a business and you have kids and you're trying to work out and do all these things. But just remembering now you have more of a purpose. Before it was always for yourself, and now it's for a family and so that they can thrive. So it's harder to do, but we know there's a purpose.
Right. I'm assuming you're kind of close to that too.
Yeah. So the gym that we go to has been a lifesaver. There are so many children there. It's very family friendly, and there's more and more gyms in the area that have child watch, or there's mom meetups to do, go for walks together. There's some different group fitness type things that are mom and baby. And so there's ways to take care of yourself. At Resolute, we tell all the moms, bring your baby.
That's awesome.
Then that takes one piece of
That's a huge piece though, right? Because you go for an appointment, it's not a long period of time. You're going to get a sitter. Where are you finding the sitter?
Yeah.
And so, but you get it, right? So,
and you were gone at work all day, and so you want to spend time with your child, so they can bring their babies, their children to us, and then if mom's doing a workout and baby starts fussing, we will offer to hold. Or I've fed so many bottles, I've bounced babies on balls. I want mom to be able to just breathe. Okay, my baby is fine. I can focus.
Yeah, we need to do an ad of you guys talking about that, because you will have more people calling you and saying, please, I'm coming. If nothing else, just to have someone else take care of their baby for a second.
Right.
So we have this little segment that we're kind of concluding with each time, and it's called Final Kick. So it's just a couple of questions. You can each answer. So, we'll start with Jacqueline. So you won't know the first one, and then Katie won't know the second one. But the first one is, what is your favorite post-workout snack?
Probably a Go Macro bar, or honestly, it's not really a snack, but pasta.
Yeah.
Something carby with proteins, pasta and meatballs.
Perfect.
I work out in the morning, so I generally just go for my eggs and toast. Yeah. Something wholesome right after, and something hot and warm.
Yeah. See, but everybody's so good in getting their protein in and their carbs and replenishing. So kudos. Okay, so next one is favorite way to recover. So hopefully you're both doing that with your busy lives.
Or mentally.
Ooh, she just added a twist. Mentally.
Okay, mentally. I like to do yoga to just kind of like recenter myself and kind of like see where my body's at and where my head's at. Yeah. So I think it answers both physically and mentally. But that's my favorite.
I'm not a yoga person. Yeah. I'm not a very Zen person. So I would probably benefit from yoga. I would say just foam rolling and not having, because I feel like when you're foam rolling, you're just kind of doing it. Like there's not as much, I'm not thinking about the purpose of it as much. So it kind of just makes me relax. And I have been doing more like deep breathing because I was always a chest breather. And so like breathing into my ribs and my belly and relaxing my pelvic floor. So probably deep breathing and foam rolling.
I like that. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. And then the last one is you can choose one or the other. Your favorite workout or a favorite place to work out?
My favorite workout is anything with a barbell. I like weightlifting, but I think it's fun with a barbell. So doing like more of like Olympic lifts, like cleans and snatches, it's a little more technical. And I think being a figure skater, there was so much technique and I started to lose that. So just by like going to the gym. So when I joined something and there was technical components to it, I felt like I was trying to perfect a movement, and that was my whole life. So I would say any type of like Olympic lift or barbell.
Do you skate now?
I did, when I first moved here, I helped with the Learn to Skate program a little bit. But then with the 2 kids and then COVID hit. And so, but I did take my 4-year-old probably a couple months ago. She loved it. So I do want to go more again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Same question.
I like dumbbells and kettlebells. So more like functional fitness movements. Definitely still on the resistance training side. And then favorite place is our CrossFit gym, Avita Fitness. We've both been there for 6-7 years now, since they opened, and people have come, people have gone, but it's kind of like family. And
well, literally for you, it's family. Because, your parents go, right? Yep. Which is awesome. How cool is that, right? That your parents are going and they're, not just like participating.
There's such a wide range of people there. So there's a place for everybody there. There's teenagers and then there's people in their 80s going. So it's a very cool spot to be.
Which is awesome. Okay, a very important piece. How do people get in touch with you? And if they, interested in talking about the classes and becoming you call it client or patient?
Either one. It depends on what they're coming for.
Yeah.
We email info@resoluteptny.com. Phone, generally texting is easier than calling. We are the receptionists.
Yes.
So 518-541-7771. And then we do have the option for free discovery calls on our website. So it's a 15-minute slot with one of our PTs to ask your questions, ask about insurance, payments, all of that.
Great. And you guys are inside Impact Gym
Yes.
in Halfmoon. So great location because you do have access to the weighted area. So, which I think is a little bit unique too, that you guys really do, like you work on somebody and then you're like, okay, now let's go do some lifting and let me see you actually moving. And I think that's not everywhere.
Yes, definitely.
So another thing that people need to know.
We have Instagram and Facebook too, if people are social media. Perfect,
which many are. So we'll link it all. Well, thank you so much for being here. We'll definitely be having you back because we do have to delve more into, both topics. But what we want to close with is, as we always do, is what you do next matters most. So let's all get out there and be fitter.